organic, unpredictable, unknown, lovely, beautiful, a sense of fulfillment. This is part of the pleasures of life and not the chores of life.
Coming up on Daily Iowan TV, Free Credit will tell you how University of Iowa students will soon be able to take classes without digging even further into their wallets.
And Bagel Delay. Find out when you can expect to get a bagel in downtown Iowa City.
And in sports, the Full Court Press has invaded the courtside studio. Hoops Talk is on the way.
All that and much more is coming up on your Sunday edition of Daily Iowan TV.
I'm Tom Brokaw. For more than 100 years now, the University of Iowa community has been waking up to the Daily Iowan. Today, it's the largest newsroom in eastern Iowa. And now you can see the news every night on Daily Iowan TV and get it anytime worldwide at dailyiowan.com.
Thanks for tuning into your Sunday edition of Daily Iowan TV. We are very excited to be back on the air after our spring break. I'm Sam Lane.
And I'm Anna Theodosis. Would you be willing to stay on campus during the summer if you could take a class for free? That's what officials from the UI hope students will start to do in order to increase the university's four-year graduation rate. Free summer tuition will be available beginning next year for in-state undergraduates for up to 12 credit hours. Out-of-state students will receive scholarships up to the cost of in-state tuition. The University of Iowa currently has about a 47% four-year graduation rate. Officials say they hope to boost this percentage to above 50% through this program.
You know, we already have a lot of students in the Iowa City area over the summer because of the way that apartment leases work. And so I think this is an opportunity, if you're staying in Iowa City and working, to also pick up a few extra credits.
Ingram said the reason the four-year graduation rate may be low is because students who change their major often become behind in their credits.
Despite increased outreach efforts from university officials, more than 40% of UI students say they don't know how accessible on-campus mental health services are. Many say they've never even considered using these services. The findings are based on a recent poll of nearly 700 UI students by students in a public affairs journalism course. The poll focused on campus safety, but also asked respondents about mental health services and gun control. A variety of mental health services are available to students on campus, including the UI Hospitals and Clinics Counseling, the Johnson County Crisis Center, and the Rape Victim Advocacy Program. 43% of UI students say they would feel somewhat safer if access to mental health services on campus was improved.
And it looks like we won't be able to get a Bruegger's Bagel in downtown Iowa City until this summer. The new Bruegger's on Iowa Avenue is not scheduled to be completed until July. That's 6 months later than the original completion date, which was initially scheduled for January of this year. The original Bruegger's building burned down in September of 2011. Smoke and water damage from the fire also affected neighboring buildings like Takanami, Yacht Club, and Studio 13. But don't worry, there is another Bruegger's location in Iowa City on Riverside Drive, so bagels are available if you ever need one.
Some good news for Johnson County residents who are living in one of the healthiest counties in the state. A nationwide report compared the health of counties in every state in the nation and measured the overall health of each of them. Johnson County was named highest for all factors that influence health. The report took into account factors like healthy behaviors, clinical care, social and economic situations, and physical environment.
And in world news, many Republican governors in the United States are beginning to compromise when it comes to health care. While officials are still condemning President Obama's Medicaid expansion plan, they are discussing ways to still offer health care to millions of low-income adults. The health care program is funded by both the federal and state governments. The Republican plan would differ from President Obama's in that it would rely more on private insurers.
A senior official from Palestine rejected on Sunday the idea of a partial Israeli settlement freeze as a way to resume peace talks. This comes after President Obama's visit to Israel and Palestine last week. U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry met with President of Palestine and Israel's Prime Minister to talk about ending a nearly 4-year-long deadlock over settlements. The Palestinian president said he will not return to negotiations unless Israel stops construction on controversial pieces of land.
And still to come later in the newscast, Daily Iowan TV Sports Courtside names its first ever Player of the Year.
But first, our own Mary LaPlaca tells us what we can expect to see this week in weather and how students are responding to the less than spring-like temperatures. Mary?
Thanks, Sam. Sunday's snow was not the ideal weather for students who spent a week down south during spring break. One student I spoke to Sunday says she was not happy to return to snowy Iowa City.
I went to Fort Myers, Florida, where it was like 82 degrees, and coming back to Iowa kind of sucked because it's really cold. And then 2 days later, it starts snowing.
Even though many students were not too pleased with Sunday's weather, it looks like the cold is going to be around for majority of the week. There is a 30% chance of snow on Monday. The temperature will only reach to 32 degrees in the morning, will rise slightly to 36 degrees in the afternoon, but it will sink back down to 30 degrees in the evening. And take a look into the rest of the week. Tuesday will be partly cloudy with a high of 39 degrees. Wednesday will reach 43 degrees, and Thursday and Friday will reach 52 degrees with partly cloudy and clear skies. Saturday will go back down to 46 degrees, and we will see some fog on that day. It looks like spring could reach us at the end of the week, so I'm looking forward to that. Back to you, Sam and Anna.
Thanks, Mary. Well, Sam, it sounds like the Iowa men's basketball team is doing pretty well in the NIT tournament.
Yeah, Anna, only one win away from seeing the Hawks play at Madison Square Garden in the Big Apple. Our own Ian Martin and Ben Ross have all the details leading up to that possibility, plus lots more. Guys?
What's up, and welcome back to our courtside studio, our weekly Hawkeye Hoop Show touching on everything black and gold.
Huge week for the Hawks and Hardwood, Ian. Back-to-back wins have the black and gold one win away from booking a trip to the Mecca of basketball.
That's right, Ben. I think it's safe to say you can diagnose Iowa City with a case of hoops fever. And with that, let's jump right into Friday night's NIT highlights. Well, Ben, Iowa took care of business on its home court Friday night, but now they must travel if they want to get to Madison Square Garden.
Yeah, NIT top seed Virginia handled a scrappy St. John's squad in Charlottesville on Sunday, creating a matchup of two teams who thought they had solid NCAA tournament cases. The Cavaliers had 4 players score double digits in the win over the Red Storm, including 2 players off the bench.
Yeah, the Wahoos have now won 18 straight games at home and post a pretty impressive resume from the season. Let's take a look and get to know UVA a little bit more. Cavaliers 23-11, 11-7 in the ACC. They had some bad losses on the road and a lot of good wins at home. You can see they also lost to Delaware at one point this season.
Yeah, you could argue that their best win is also Iowa's best win of the season against Wisconsin earlier on. They are 3-0 against common opponents, says Iowa, going 2-0 against a Virginia Tech team that Iowa got beat up on early in the season.
Yeah, Virginia Tech turned out to be not very good. The Cavaliers beat them by double digits both times that they faced them. But they are clearly a very good team, although they lack the qualifications for the NCAA tournament because they really won the most of their games on their home court. Now let's take a look to get to know one of the Cavaliers' best players, point guard Joe Harris. Joe Harris, 16.7 points per game, fourth in the ACC, also a good three-point field goal shooter, and the main source of offense for a UVA team that slows the basketball down.
Yeah, he's a good defender as well. He's reliable. He only had 7 points against St. John's, though, but he was very important in that game.
Yeah, double digits in 30 of the 34 games this season you saw, so he is very consistent, and that St. John's score kind of an anomaly. Well, as far as players playing very well for Iowa, Devin Marble has keyed the Hawkeyes in both blowout wins in the NIT so far, playing above even his fairly solid season numbers. 14.8 points per game in the regular season, but he scored 26 points per game in the first 2 rounds of the NIT. What does he need to do in the UVA game?
Well, he needs to do the same thing he sort of did against here at Stony Brook the last few days. He was really important now that Gazelle's out, and he needs to be patient, not force shots, and sort of just be himself.
Absolutely. There's probably going to be a lot of possessions that go down to the end of the shot clock when you're facing a good defensive squad like UVA. Marble's been a factor all season long for the Hawkeyes, and his production simply cannot be ignored.
No doubt, Ian. Marble, with no question, he would take home our first ever courtside player of the year.
That's right, guys. What a year it's been for Devin Marble. After starting the year by scoring in double figures in all but one non-conference game, the Southfield, Michigan native's well-documented February funk saw the junior score just 2 points in 2 consecutive Big Ten losses not too long ago. Since then, Marble has flat-out responded, scoring 15 or more in 10 out of his last 12. During that stretch, Marble joined the 1,000-point club and has led the Hawks to within 1 game of delivering a semifinal berth in the NIT's Final Four in New York City after pouring in game highs of 24 and 28 points in the Hawks' first and second round victories of the NIT. The stats speak for themselves, ladies and gentlemen. Double figures in 19 of the Hawks' 35 contests, adding up to a 14.8 points per game clip, leaving no doubt who would be taking home our first ever courtside Player of the Year.
Much like Marble, the Iowa basketball team itself is playing some of the best basketball at the most critical point of the season.
Absolutely, Ben, and for the first time since the Hawks' postseason schedule was announced, Iowa head coach Fran McCaffrey, after the Stony Brook game, said that he expects an NIT championship from his team. Well, March Madness, though, not the only thing going on in sports this weekend, Ben.
That's right, Ian. March Madness took over the state capitol in Des Moines, and while the Hawks struggled for much of the weekend, one Iowa wrestler did manage to take home a national title.
Derek St. John became the 52nd national championship in Iowa program history after his 3-2 victory over Northwestern's Jason Welch at 157 pounds. Rest of the Hawks grapplers not as fortunate. Tony Ramos fell to Ohio State's Logan Steiber in the 133 title match, while Matt McDonough's quest for another national title was ended very early after being upset in the quarterfinals by Cornell's Nashawn Garrett at 125 pounds.
Yeah, Ian, McDonough led 2-0 in the first period of that one, but gave up the final 4 points of the match in the upset.
Yeah, very surprising result there. Well, that's all for us here at Courtside. Obviously, a whole lot more coverage of this championship weekend coming up throughout our week. For Ben Ross, I'm Ian Martin. Back to you guys at the desk.
And only with Daily Iowan TV can you get a sneak peek at Monday's edition of the Daily Iowan. Read about how new technology is driving up the cost of farming.
Plus, find out all about the details on the UI College of Public Health's annual cancer report.
That's your latest edition of Daily Iowan TV. Be sure to check us out tomorrow or anytime online at dailyiowan.com.
Thanks for watching and have a great night.